How many times have you seen a person sleeping on a park bench, searching through a dumpster for food scraps, or pushing a shopping cart loaded with their belongings down a street and wondered, who is that person? Why are they homeless? Over the next 3 nights, I'll bring you a special series of reports on the homeless. I'll look at the problem from a national perspective and the local situation. Tonight, an overview of homelessness in America. They've been called America's Forgotten, the men and women who spend their days, their nights, their lives living on the streets. It's impossible to know exactly how many people are homeless. Estimates range from 250,000 to 3 million in the USA alone. However, most of those who deal with the homeless say 3 million is probably the most accurate figure. If that's so, 1 out of every 80 Americans lives on the streets. As you might expect, the experts say the cities with the biggest homeless problem are New York City and Los Angeles. For our series of reports, we decided to come to Washington, D.C. Homelessness is a major problem here. We talk with legislators about possible solutions, and we talk with those who are trying to get the homeless back on their feet. Mitch Snyder is probably the nation's #1 activist for the homeless. He gained national attention a few years ago when he went on a hunger strike. Since November, Mitch himself has been living on the streets, trying to get the attention of Congress and the American people focused on the homeless issue. He says a great many Americans are homeless for a simple reason: a lack of affordable housing.
People who are on fixed incomes, people who are on modest incomes, people who make minimum wage. In most parts of the country, they're very hard-pressed to find affordable housing.
There are many other reasons people resort to the streets. Depending on who you talk to, 30 to 80% of the homeless have mental problems. They're on the streets because of deinstitutionalization. Others are homeless due to unemployment or drug and alcohol problems. For years, homeless Americans have been referred to as bums, hobos, and winos. But the executive director of the Fort Wayne Rescue Mission, Reverend Gus Parris, says those perceptions are dead wrong.
These are not winos. These are not street people who can get a job but don't want to. These are people who simply have tragic experiences in their lives, and because of it have nowhere to turn.
Congressman Andy Jacobs of Indianapolis says many of the nation's homeless are average people who've just caught a bad break.
And the great majority of people who are on the streets and homeless aren't there because they're lazy. They have willing hands. They just can't swim to Japan to get their jobs back.
Mitch Snyder says there's no such thing as a typical homeless person. They come from all backgrounds.
There's no predictable type. I would not be surprised at some point to encounter you out on the street. I know a Washington Post reporter who's homeless. I know a judge who's homeless. I know a psychiatrist who's homeless. The truth is that it can happen to just about anybody, and that's what's got us so scared. I mean, that's the truth that we don't want to come to grips with.
25-year-old Barry Bruce grew up in Baltimore. He's been living on the streets of Washington for the past 5 years.
A lot of people who end up homeless had lives and had family and had relatives, and they've been shortchanged to this. You know, they've been, from a series of misfortunes, they've lost all this, and they ended up in the gutter, or they ended up on the street.
Ronald King is originally from Dallas, Texas. He became homeless after a failed romance and legal problems. Is it a painful experience?
Very painful. Everybody wants to have a nice house and kids.
Benjamin Franklin Jones says he was discharged from the Army without cause. Since 1984, he sat in this box near the White House by day and slept on the streets at night.
It's cold, it's hard. I seen my share of hungry days. And it's extremely miserable, in other words.
Tomorrow night in part 2 of my series, I'll take a close-up look at homelessness right here in Fort Wayne.
And coming up, money expert Steve Crowley reports that under the new tax laws, yachts and RVs are defined as homes. He says you can take advantage of that.
And in just a moment, Maureen Ty says tomorrow should be another nice day. Her weather is coming up next.